To the outside world, I have it all. Sophia Hartwell, 34 years old, sole heir to the Hartwell Hospitality Group, a boutique hotel empire my grandmother built from a single bed and breakfast in Charleston 60 years ago. 23 properties across the East Coast. A net worth that would make most people's heads spin. But standing here in the lobby of our flagship Boston property, wearing my favorite worn jeans and an old college sweatshirt, my hair in a messy ponytail after a 6-hour drive from New York, I look like anything but a CEO. And that's exactly how I like it. I believe in experiencing our hotels the way our guests do. No announcements, no red carpet treatment. Just me, checking in like any other tired traveler, seeing how my staff really treats people when they think nobody important is watching. Today, I wish I had worn a suit. The woman behind the front desk didn't even look up when I approached. She was busy on her phone, laughing at something, her perfectly manicured nails tapping away at the screen. Her name tag read Jessica Palmer, front desk manager. I cleared my throat. Nothing. I cleared it again. Louder this time. She held up one finger without looking at me. One finger, like I was an inconvenience. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she put her phone down and looked at me with the kind of expression you'd give a stray dog that wandered into your house. Can I help you? I'd like to check in, please. The reservation should be under Hartwell. She typed lazily, then frowned at the screen. I don't see anything under that name. Could you check again? It was made 2 weeks ago. She sighed dramatically, like I was asking her to solve world hunger. Look, I already checked. There's no reservation. Maybe you have the wrong hotel? There's a Comfort Inn about 2 miles down the road. That might be more. Your speed. I felt my jaw tighten. Excuse me? She looked me up and down, taking in my casual clothes, my lack of designer accessories, the small overnight bag I was carrying instead of Louis Vuitton luggage. I'm just saying, our rooms start at $800 a night. This isn't really a budget establishment. I'm aware of the pricing, I said, keeping my voice steady. I'd still like you to find my reservation. And I'd like $1 million and a beach house in Malibu. She laughed at her own joke. We don't always get what we want, do we? An older couple waiting behind me shifted uncomfortably. A businessman in a suit pretended to be very interested in his phone. Nobody said anything. This is what my staff does when they think I'm not watching. I'd like to speak with your manager, I said. Jessica's smile turned sharp. Honey, I am the manager. Well, front desk manager anyway. And I'm telling you, we're fully booked. No room at the inn, get it? Like the Christmas story? She laughed again. Then I'd like to speak with the general manager. Something flickered in her eyes. Something almost like amusement. Oh, you want to talk to the GM? That's my boyfriend, sweetheart. And trust me, he's not going to help you either. He's very particular about the kind of clientele we allow here. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Your boyfriend is the general manager? That's right. Ryan Mitchell. We've been together for 2 years now. He basically runs this place. She leaned forward conspiratorially. Between you and me, he's about to get a major promotion. His wife's family owns the whole company, but she's never around. Too busy playing businesswoman somewhere else. Ryan does all the real work, and once he divorces her and takes half of everything, she made a gesture like an explosion. Boom. We'll be running this whole empire. The cold feeling spread through my entire body. Ryan Mitchell. My husband. The man I married 5 years ago. The man I trusted to manage our Boston property while I oversaw the expansion into New York and Philadelphia. The man who told me last week that he was working late every night because he was dedicated to making the hotel the best it could be. I took a slow breath. Then another. Interesting, I said, my voice remarkably calm. And where is Mr. Mitchell right now? Jessica narrowed her eyes. Why do you want to know? Just curious. You seem very proud of him. She preened at that. He's in his office. 3rd floor. But don't even think about going up there. He doesn't meet with just anyone, especially not. She gestured vaguely at my outfit. Walk-ins. I smiled. It was not a nice smile. You know what? I think I'll go say hello anyway. Hey! She came around the counter, her heels clicking on the marble floor. You can't just go up there! Security! A young man in a blazer started toward us, but I held up my hand. Wait here, I told him. I'll be right back. And please make sure Miss Palmer doesn't go anywhere. Something in my voice made him stop. Maybe it was the authority that comes from giving orders to hundreds of employees over the years. Maybe it was the fact that I finally sounded like the CEO I was. Jessica grabbed my arm. I don't know who you think you are, but you can't just walk in here and act like you own the place. I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back up at her face. Actually, I said, I can. Because I do own this place. Every single brick of it. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I knew by heart. My husband answered on the third ring. Hey babe, what's up? I'm in a meeting. Are you? That's interesting, because I'm in the lobby of your hotel, and your girlfriend just told me you were in your office. Silence. Sophia? What are you… I don't know what you're talking about. What girlfriend? The one who just refused to give me a room because I don't look rich enough. The one who told me all about your plan to divorce me and take half my company. Ring any bells? More silence. I could almost hear him sweating through the phone. Why don't you come down to the lobby, Ryan? I think we should all have a nice chat. Me, you, and your girlfriend Jessica. I'm sure we have a lot to discuss. I hung up before he could respond. Jessica's face had gone from angry to pale. Your husband? But Ryan said, he told me his wife was some old, rich woman who didn't care about him. He said she was never around. He said a lot of things, apparently. I turned to face her fully. How long? What? How long have you been sleeping with my husband? She swallowed hard. 2 years. But I didn't know. He showed me pictures, but they were old, and you look different, and… 2 years. I let that sink in. 2 years of late nights. 2 years of business trips. 2 years of phone calls where he told me he missed me while he was probably lying in bed with this woman. The elevator dinged. Ryan stepped out, his face a mask of forced casualness that crumbled the moment he saw me standing next to Jessica. He was still handsome, my husband. Still had that charming smile that had won me over in business school. But now I could see what I'd been too blind to see before. The fear in his eyes. Sophia? Honey, let me explain. Don't. The word came out sharp enough to cut glass. Don't you dare call me honey. It's not what it looks like. Really? Because it looks like you've been cheating on me for 2 years with your subordinate while plotting to steal my company. Is that not what's happening here? The lobby had gone quiet. The older couple was openly staring now. The businessman had put away his phone. Even the security guard seemed frozen in place. Can we talk about this somewhere private? Ryan asked, his voice low and urgent. Why? Embarrassed? I tilted my head. Funny. You weren't embarrassed to parade your mistress around in my hotel. You weren't embarrassed to let her insult guests and turn away business. You weren't embarrassed to make plans to take half of my grandmother's legacy. Our legacy, he corrected automatically, then winced when he realized his mistake. Is that what you think? That because you married me, you're entitled to everything my family built over 3 generations? I laughed. But there was no humor in it. I think our lawyers are going to have a very different opinion. Jessica suddenly found her voice. Wait. Lawyers? Ryan, you said the prenup wasn't valid. You said your lawyer found a loophole. Ryan's face went red. Jessica, shut up. Don't tell me to shut up. You said we were going to be together. You said once you divorced her, we'd have enough money to start over. I said shut up. The slap echoed through the lobby. Time seemed to stop. Jessica stood there, her hand on her cheek, her eyes wide with shock. Ryan stared at his own hand like he couldn't believe what he'd just done. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to step away. The security guard had finally moved, positioning himself between Ryan and Jessica. Ma'am, are you all right? Do you want me to call the police? Jessica's face crumpled. Tears streamed down her cheeks, leaving trails of mascara in their wake. He hit me. Oh my God, he actually hit me. I should have felt satisfied. The mistress getting slapped by the cheating husband. Karma, right? But all I felt was tired, and sad, and sick to my stomach. Don't call the police yet, I said quietly. But please escort Mr. Mitchell to his office and make sure he doesn't leave. I have some calls to make. The security guard nodded, taking Ryan by the arm. My husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, looked at me with something almost like desperation. Sophia, please, can we just talk? I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. But we can work through this. We can go to counseling. I'll do whatever you want." I looked at this man I had loved for 6 years. This man I had trusted with my heart, my business, my family's legacy. "You should have thought about that before you spent 2 years lying to my face." They led him away. Jessica was still crying, mascara running down her face, her perfect appearance destroyed. Part of me wanted to leave her there. She'd been cruel, she'd insulted me, she'd been sleeping with my husband, but she'd also been lied to. Just like me. I handed her a tissue from my bag. "Here." She looked at me like I'd offered her a live grenade. "Why are you being nice to me? I was horrible to you. I've been sleeping with your husband." "Yes, you have, and we'll deal with that. But right now, you have a decision to make." "What decision?" "Whether you want to tell me everything, or whether you want to go down with him." She wiped her eyes, smearing more makeup across her face. "What do you mean?" "I mean that I suspect my husband has been doing more than just cheating on me. The finances at this hotel haven't been adding up for months. Money's been disappearing. I thought it was accounting errors, but now I'm starting to think." Jessica's face went even paler. "The special account." "Excuse me?" "He has a special account." "For expenses," he said. "Cash withdrawals, mostly." I never asked questions because... She trailed off. "Because he was promising you a future." She nodded miserably. I pulled out my phone again. "I need to make some calls. There's a coffee shop across the street. Go clean yourself up, then meet me there in 30 minutes. And Jessica?" "Yes?" "If you try to warn him or run, I will make sure you never work in hospitality again. Do you understand?" She nodded quickly and hurried toward the restroom. The next hour was a blur of phone calls. My lawyer, my accountant, the chairman of our board of directors, each conversation worse than the last. By the time Jessica sat down across from me at the coffee shop, I had learned several things. 1. My husband had been embezzling money from the company for over a year. Nearly $300,000, funneled through fake vendors and inflated invoices. 2. He had been planning to divorce me for months, carefully positioning himself to claim that our prenuptial agreement was signed under duress. 3. And this was the one that nearly broke me. He had a son. A 3-year-old boy named Marcus, living with Ryan's mother in Vermont. A child he'd conceived with a woman he'd had an affair with before Jessica, before the embezzlement, before any of this. "Did you know about the boy?" I asked Jessica. She shook her head. "I swear I didn't. I knew he'd been married before. I mean, to you. But he never mentioned a kid." "Married before? He told you I was his first wife?" "That's what he said. He had all these stories about how he built his career from nothing, how he worked his way up, how he only married you because you begged him to help save your failing company." I laughed. "I couldn't help it. My failing company. That's rich. I'm guessing that's not true. My company was worth $50 million when I married him. He was an assistant manager at a Holiday Inn." Jessica's mouth fell open. "He said he brought you the Boston property. He said he discovered it, negotiated the purchase, turned it into a flagship. I bought this property when I was 26. Ryan's contribution was convincing me to let him manage it so I could focus on expansion." I rubbed my temples. "I am such an idiot." "You're not an idiot. He's just really good at lying." I looked at this woman who had been my enemy an hour ago. She was young, probably mid-20s, pretty in an obvious sort of way, and completely in over her head. "How did you meet him?" "I was a hostess at a restaurant downtown. He came in for a business dinner, gave me his card, said he could get me a job in hotels if I was interested in a career change." She laughed bitterly. "Some career change. He has a pattern," I said, mostly to myself. "Find someone young, someone impressed by nice suits and business cards, make them feel special. Make them feel like they're the only one who really understands him. Is that what he did to you?" "Something like that." I remembered meeting Ryan at a networking event in New York, how he'd made me laugh when I was exhausted and overwhelmed, trying to fill the shoes my grandmother left when she passed. How he'd listened to me complain about the pressure of being the only one left to carry on the family legacy, how he'd made me feel like I didn't have to do it alone. All of it a performance. My phone buzzed. My lawyer. "What have you got?" I answered. The news was even worse than I expected. The embezzlement was just the tip of the iceberg. Ryan had been planning a hostile takeover, slowly buying up shares through shell companies, building alliances with board members who were dissatisfied with my leadership. He was 6 months away from having enough votes to force me out of my own company. "What do you want to do?" my lawyer asked. I looked out the window at the Grand Hartwell, the hotel my grandmother had dreamed about for 20 years before she could afford to buy it. The hotel where I'd learned to make beds when I was 8, where I'd worked every summer through high school and college, where I'd celebrated my wedding reception. I want to burn it all down. Metaphorically, I hope. Set up a board meeting for tomorrow morning. Emergency session. I want all the evidence organized and ready to present. Sophia, are you sure you want to do this publicly? We could handle this quietly. Avoid the scandal. No. My voice was steel. He was going to humiliate me in front of everyone. He was going to take everything my family built and act like he earned it. He doesn't get to slink away quietly. He faces the board. And he faces the consequences. I hung up and looked at Jessica. Are you willing to testify? About the affair? About what he told you regarding the company? About everything? Will I go to jail? Did you steal anything? No. I mean, he bought me things, but I didn't take any money from the company. Then you're not the one who needs to worry about jail. I pulled out a business card and wrote a number on the back. This is my personal attorney. Call her. Tell her everything. If you cooperate fully, I'll make sure you're treated fairly. Why would you help me? I was awful to you. You were. I stood up. But you were also manipulated by a man who spent years perfecting his con, and frankly, I have bigger problems to deal with right now than getting revenge on his mistress. I left her sitting there, staring at the card in her hand. The board meeting the next morning was everything I'd hoped for and everything I'd dreaded. 15 people sat around the polished conference table on the top floor of the Grand Hartwell. Some had been friends of my grandmother. Some I'd known my whole life. And some, I now knew, had been secretly working against me. Ryan sat at the far end of the table, his lawyer beside him. He'd somehow found a suit overnight, and he almost looked like the confident executive he pretended to be. Almost. But I could see the sweat on his forehead, the way his leg bounced under the table, the way his eyes kept darting to the door like he was calculating whether he could make a run for it. "This emergency session of the Hartwell Hospitality Group Board of Directors is now in order," said Gerald Morrison, our chairman, a friend of my grandmother's who'd been on the board since before I was born. "Missus Hartwell Mitchell, you called this meeting. The floor is yours." I stood. "Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll keep this brief." I pressed a button on my laptop, and a presentation appeared on the screen behind me. Over the past 24 hours, I've discovered that my husband, Ryan Mitchell, has been systematically embezzling funds from this company. The total amount stolen exceeds $300,000. Gasps around the table. Ryan's face went pale. "That's a lie," he said, his voice tight. "This is obviously a personal vendetta. Sophia and I are having marital problems, and she's trying to... These are the bank records." I clicked to the next slide. Account numbers. Transaction dates. Amounts. These are the invoices he submitted for payment to companies that don't exist. And these are the registration documents showing that those fake companies are owned by shell corporations traced back to accounts in his name. Ryan's lawyer whispered something urgent in his ear. "I'm also presenting evidence that Mr. Mitchell has been secretly acquiring shares in this company through proxies, with the apparent intention of staging a hostile takeover." Another slide. More documents. The room was completely silent now. And finally, I paused, letting the moment stretch. "I have testimony from multiple sources confirming that Mr. Mitchell has been engaged in an extramarital affair with a company employee for over 2 years, during which time he shared confidential business information and made promises regarding company assets that were not his to promise." I looked directly at Ryan. "Would you like to respond?" For a moment, I saw the mask slip completely. The charm, the confidence, the easy smile. All of it gone. What was left was something small and desperate and ugly. "You can't prove any of this." "Actually, I can. And I have. The documentation has already been sent to our corporate attorneys and to the FBI. The FBI. That word hung in the air like a thunderclap. "Ryan Mitchell," I continued, my voice steady. I am officially recommending to this board that you be terminated from your position as general manager effective immediately. I am also filing for divorce, and I will be pursuing full criminal charges for embezzlement, fraud, and theft of company property." Ryan stood up so fast his chair fell over. "You can't do this to me. I helped build this company. When I met you, you were drowning. You couldn't handle the pressure your grandmother left you. I saved you." "You saved me?" I laughed, and this time there was no bitterness, no sadness, just clarity. "Ryan, when I met you, I had just completed the acquisition of 6 properties in 18 months. I was overwhelmed, yes. But I was succeeding. Everything you've ever had, you got from me. The job, the title, the lifestyle, the respect. None of it was yours. I gave up my career for you. You were managing a Holiday Inn in Scranton. Your career was going nowhere. I could have done great things. I had potential, and you used that potential to steal from the woman who loved you. Congratulations. I hope it was worth it." The board voted unanimously to terminate him. When security escorted him out of the building, he was screaming about lawyers, about revenge, about how I'd regret this. I didn't regret anything. The next few months were hard. The divorce, the investigation, the media attention. Hotel heiress exposed cheating husband's $1 million scheme. That headline followed me everywhere. But something else happened too. People started reaching out. Women who'd been through similar betrayals, young entrepreneurs asking for advice, industry colleagues who respected how I'd handled a public humiliation with grace and strength. And one person in particular, Daniel Chen, had been the head chef at the Grand Hartwell for 3 years. I'd hired him myself, impressed by his Michelin star and his vision for transforming hotel dining. We'd always been friendly, but professional. Appropriate. Now, with my marriage in ashes, I found myself spending more time in his restaurant. At first, it was just convenience. The hotel was my home base while I dealt with the fallout, and his kitchen was always open late. But then the conversations started lasting longer. The coffee turned into wine. The professional distance started to feel like something else. "Can I tell you something?" he asked one night, about 4 months after everything fell apart. "Of course. I've wanted to ask you to dinner for 2 years. Real dinner, not just room service in your office. But you were married, so I never." "Why are you telling me this now?" He smiled, and it was nothing like Ryan's charming grin. It was shy, almost nervous. "Because I figured I might not get another chance. And because you deserve to know that someone saw you. The real you. Not the CEO, not the heiress, not the wronged wife. Just you." I thought about Ryan, who'd seen me as a means to an end, who'd pretended to love me while plotting to take everything I had. And I thought about Daniel, who'd kept a respectful distance for years, who'd never asked for anything, who made me laugh when I was stressed and listened when I needed to talk. "Dinner sounds nice," I said. That was 6 months ago. Today, I'm standing in the lobby of the Grand Hartwell again, but this time I'm not wearing jeans and a sweatshirt. I'm wearing a designer dress for the ribbon-cutting ceremony of our newly renovated restaurant, Daniel's creation that's already been praised by critics as the most innovative hotel dining experience on the East Coast. Ryan is serving 3 years in federal prison for embezzlement and wire fraud. His appeal was denied last month. Jessica Palmer works at a small hotel in Maine now. She sent me a thank you card last Christmas for helping her get into a management training program instead of blacklisting her from the industry. I still think about that sometimes. How easy it would have been to destroy her too. But she was a victim. In her own way. Just another person my husband manipulated and discarded. And there's one more thing. Marcus, the little boy Ryan abandoned, is 6 years old now. His grandmother couldn't afford to care for him anymore. She reached out to me through a lawyer, asking if I knew anyone who might be willing to help. I surprised everyone, including myself. I started a college fund for him. I arranged for financial support for his grandmother. And once a month, I drive to Vermont and take him to lunch. He calls me Miss Sophie. He's a sweet kid. Shy, with his father's eyes but none of his father's cruelty. He didn't ask to be brought into this mess. "You ready?" Daniel appears beside me, straightening his chef's jacket. I look around the lobby, filled with guests and journalists and board members. At the portrait of my grandmother that hangs above the fireplace. At the life I've rebuilt from the ashes of my husband's betrayal. I've been ready for a long time, I say. He takes my hand, and together we walk toward the crowd. Someone once told me that the fall of a man is the mistress who brings him down, but I think they got it wrong. The fall of a man is his own choices. And my rise? That was all me.